eraser. When going through the routing out process, what is it you are asked to do and how can it possibly take so long? All right, routing out, which means leaving staff or leaving the Sea Org in Scientology. It's called routing out because, as I've explained before, there is a piece of paper which has a series of steps on it that you have to get done in order to finish whatever it is you're trying to do, whether it's getting a person signed up for and onto a course, or signed up and paid and into an auditing session, or getting a staff member who got sick, getting him sent to the medical guy and getting him straightened out. There's routing forms. There's these pieces of paper that have all these steps on them for all these different situations, and they're called routing forms because they route you around the organization from here to here to here. All right, that's the idea that's why it's called routing out. You're leaving. You're taking the route through the organization to get you out of there. And it's a process because one, and the most important reason why it takes a long time is because they don't want you to go. They have every vested interest in holding on to you and keeping you there for as long as they can, because the longer you're there, the better chance that you're just going to change your mind and stay. And they'd rather have you there, halfway in than all the way out. Because then they can work you and love bomb you and handle you and all the other things that they do in order to keep you on board. Scientology is desperate for people. All destructive cults are desperate for people. They are, they got a mission, man. They got things they got to do, and they need people. They need all the hands to make these things happen. And they, generally speaking, want everybody in the world on board with them. So, when somebody leaves, it's the antithesis of what they're trying to accomplish. So they're automatically negative towards the entire process, and they're going to enter as many delays into it as they can. So then you have the steps of the routing form itself, and that involves seeing various people. I don't remember it all off the top of my head, but basically a series of people who you have to explain yourself to, like the ethics officer. I think the chaplain is on there, so you have somebody to talk to, and really it's just another that I've explained on this Q&A series before what the chaplain is, and it's really just a kinder, gentler ethics officer. But basically, you have these people who you have to convince you have a good reason for leaving, and you're still on board, still a good guy, you're not a suppressive person, and it's not like they automatically assume you're suppressive, but they're definitely looking at you, sideways, right? Like, what do you mean you want to leave? Why do you want to leave? So then you have Hubbard's directions, which I've talked about many times before, about how if you want to leave, or you're critical of the organization, or you're fault finding, then that's because of your own overts, your sins, the things you've done against the organization or against people in the organization that you shouldn't have done. Maybe you stole some things, maybe you lied, maybe you false reported your statistics, maybe you, did something you shouldn't have done with a public person. Maybe there's, who knows what you've been up to. But whatever it is, they want to get all of it out of you first. They want you to confess everything. So you will first sit down and do what's called an OW write-up, an overt and withhold write-up, where you have to write down every single thing you can think of. And then, after that's done, if you still want to leave, then clearly there must be more, because that's what Hubbard says. People who want to leave, they have overts. So then they have to arrange to get you in for a security check. That means an auditor has to sit down with you in a room for hours and ask you sharp and pointed questions about your leaving. And about, what have you done that you haven't you're withholding? What have you, is there some overt you've committed as a staff member? As a staff member, did you do a bad job on your post? On your, all these questions. There's tons of them, and anything you can kind of imagine to dig around as to, did you steal anything, from your post? Did you lie to your senior? Have you ever false reported your statistics? Like all these things. They're going to ask you all of this on the meter, and it's going to take hours. And that consumes an auditor's time. most of the organizations of Scientology don't have a lot of auditors. And the auditors they do have are the ones that are that are servicing paid public. That's the priority. So they're going to fit you in when they can. They're already reluctant to deal with you at all because they'd rather have you around. Then they have to do this whole song and dance to get an auditor and get get your folder looked at. They also make sure as part of this that there isn't any bad auditing that's happened to you. And of course, you could argue that all auditing is bad. But from within Scientology's point of view, they're looking for errors that have been committed on your case. Auditors screwing up, give bad directions that were given to the auditors to carry out on you that maybe didn't work so good. Maybe that caused your disaffection and caused you to want to leave. So they want to look into your auditing and they're going to want to fix it. That's actually something they do before they start getting into all the sec checking. If the case repair doesn't work, then they're like, okay, this guy's got overts and we got to figure out what they are. Only after they have finished all that. And a sec check is, once it's started, generally speaking, they don't add a lot of questions to it. Maybe it's 10, 15, 20 questions. They're going to ask those to you. You got to get through the whole process. You get a floating needle on every question indicating that you've confessed everything. Then, if you still want to leave, then you get to go. Okay? That's basically the routing out process. I might have missed a couple steps, but basically that's what it entails. It took me 8 or 9 months to get through mine, mostly because I was waiting for an auditor. I had no leverage. I wasn't going to pay for it. I couldn't afford that. So I had to wait until they freed up an auditor to take me in session and do my security check. Once that got started, it was only about a week and I was done because I had done the RPF. I knew how to get through a sec check. So, basically that's the deal. And they can delay this stuff for a really long time if they want to. And that's what tends to drag those things out.